Welcome back to the news at 10. Staff of the Federal Institute of Research, Oshodi, have embarked on an industrial action to protest the alleged forgery of a PhD certificate by the Acting Director General of the Institute, Mr. Chima Igwe. The members of staff are demanding that the embattled acting DG steps down to give way for an unbiased investigation into the matter. They say the controversy is affecting the image and the running of the organization.
The quiet environment at the Federal Institute of Research, Oshodi, FIIRO, suggests that activities are at a low ebb. Obviously, the industrial action by workers is already taking its toll on the organization. Staff have decided to remain indoors without carrying out their routine duties. Workspaces are dormant, some under lock and key. No work. The ringing of the bell signals staff to come out. And shortly, a solidarity chant follows as they converge. They are not happy about the certificate forgery allegation hanging on their boss's neck. They want him suspended to allow an investigation.
The integrity of this community matters a lot. We sell research products, research outcomes. So if people have issues with our integrity, that means there's nothing we are selling. According to public service rule, if a public officer is under investigation, the rule says such a person should step aside pending the investigation so that there won't be interference and influences here and there. So for the past 1 year, that is supposed to have been done. We are not saying what the allegation is true or not now, but we are saying because public service rule is applied to all of us, so it should also apply to him.
Dr. Igwe, for past 18 years that I have been using the certificates, many of his seniors have used this certificate to jump over them.
Easy to have tried. For almost 20 years now, he has been coming with something that's not worth it, an attestation, as promotion. I brought attestation to do my PhD. It was not accepted. So what is good for the goose is good for the gander.
At the time of recording, the embattled acting DG could not be reached as his office was locked. The industrial action at the Research Institute has no end date, and the staff have vowed to continue downing tools. This is sure to affect productivity, while the effect will depend on how long the strike lasts.
Moving on to other stories. Now, 1 year after the federal government signed the disability rights law, some persons living with disabilities say nothing has changed. The executive director of the Center for Citizens with Disability says some people living with disabilities are still experiencing discrimination. The group is calling on the government to accelerate the establishment of the Disabilities Rights Commission, which they believe would serve them.
On the 23rd of January 2019, President Buhari signed into law the Nigeria Disability Act, which criminalizes all forms of discrimination against people living with disabilities. The law provides, among other things, a 6-month jail term or a 100,000 naira fine for anyone who is found guilty of discrimination against people with disabilities, allotting at least 5% of all employment spaces in public offices, as well as the establishment of a National Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever.
1 year after the law was passed, it appears nothing significant has changed. This is why people living with disabilities in Abuja are on the street calling for the full implementation of the disability law.
365 days after the passage of the Disability Act, the federal government of Nigeria is struggling to implement the act. The federal government of Nigeria is struggling to use a legal framework to protect Nigerians with disabilities. Key among government responsibility is the establishment of the National Commission on Persons with Disabilities. This National Commission on Persons with Disabilities is designed to support the government in implementing the act.
5% employment to each ministry and line ministry for persons with disability is not even yet implemented. So you can see Mr. President has even given appointment national advisors, ministers, and no any person with disability was given an appointment. Right from the election, we suffer vigorously.
The inscriptions on the placards summarize their demands. Apart from being empowered by law to seek redress in court when they're discriminated against, the group wants the government to quickly establish the National Commission for People with Disabilities, a provision which they say is very critical for the protection of their rights.
And from there, let's take a look at some business news for the day. Here's Bisi Adebayo.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Ijeoma. We'll begin business news with the federal government's plans to refinance up to 3.6 trillion naira local debt in 2020, and that's according to the Director General of the Debt Management Office, Ms. Patience Oniha. At a press briefing today in Abuja, the DMO boss says the refinancing includes about 1.13 trillion naira worth of federal government bonds and 2.45 trillion naira in treasury bills. She says the federal government would set its borrowings for the year around the FGN and savings bonds and may consider green bonds if the conditions are right. Ms. Oniha further explains that government plans to launch a third tranche of Sukuk bonds after the last two successful issues to enable it raise about 150 billion naira to fund 44 road projects across the country. Nigeria's inflation increased to 11.98% year-on-year in the month of December 2019, and that's its highest in 19 months, showing an increase of 0.13% from the 11.85% recorded in November. According to the data released today by the National Bureau of Statistics, the increase was recorded in all divisions, with the food index up 14.67%, and that was due to a rise in the price of bread, fish, meat, yam, and other tubers. Core inflation, which includes the prices of volatile agricultural produce, stood at 9.33% year-on-year from 8.99% recorded in November. Urban inflation was higher at 12.62% year-on-year, and that's from 12.47% the previous month, while rural inflation rose to 11.41% from 11.3% year-on-year. More stories now. The Chief Executive Officer of the Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rawani, has been speaking on what Nigeria needs to do to prepare for currency convergence and convertibility. Mr. Rawani, who spoke earlier in Business Morning today, says the country's monetary policy and foreign exchange system needs to be tidied up.
We have the African Development Bank elections coming up in May, and there are many things that are in play. So I think that we should look at the border closure, look at the eco currency, look at the ADB elections, and look at other things within the African regional context. Because it's not, you cannot take the eco currency in isolation. There are many things involved, including the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. So we have, both at the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we are fully equipped, and we have the people that understand this, and Nigeria has been at the forefront of the WAMSI arrangement. And so I don't think we are going to be bulldozed into things, but at the same time, we shouldn't be complacent, because sooner or later, there are two types of convertibility. There's current account convertibility, and there's capital account convertibility. The difference between one and the other is about 5 years. So definitely, we will have to consider currency convertibility and tidy up our own internal currency arrangements. Our foreign exchange market and our foreign exchange rates will have to be much more consistent with our economic status at the day.
The bulls have the upper hand at the equities market this week as Friday's session marks the third round of positive sentiment within 5 days of trading. Teniola Shobowale has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. An additional 115 billion naira is added to the equities market's total value today after investors extended bargain hunting for the shares of some key bank stocks as well as MTN Nigeria. Despite a widely negative sentiment from 4 key sectors of the NSE, gains from GT Bank, Axis, Zenith Bank, Stanbic and Ecobank lifted the banking counter by 2.11% and added support to nearly 1% increase on the all-share index. However, market breadth ended Friday's trading session with a negative margin of 16 losers, led by nearly 9% price loss from Golden Breweries against 13 advances, led by 7.41% gain on Cornerstone Insurance. Now, the trio of UBA, Axis and Zenith Bank emerged as top on the trades list and contributed largely to more than 320 million shares traded in 4,175 transactions for the day. And that's the stock market report. I'm Teniola Shoboale.
Many thanks, Tenny. Meanwhile, it's a similar picture for most of the world's leading stock markets amid strong global economic data and a solid start to the earnings season on Wall Street. Here are some of the closing figures for Friday. And that's it on Business News. It's back to you, Ijoma.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Bisi. More than 1,000 Nigerians have emerged winners in the quarterly Diamond Extra Season 11 reward schedule, with businessman Chidi Okpala taking away an educational grant for 5 years worth 6 million naira. At the prize presentation ceremony in Lagos, the Group Head Product Insights and Capabilities of Access Bank says the prize fund and number of prizes has grown every year. And in the last decade, the bank has given more than 5 billion naira in prizes to several winners.
Kicking things off with the first draw in the Diamond Extra Quarterly Draw.
And now, the winners from the 11th season draw are gathered here to receive their prizes. But before that, a senior official of the bank welcomes everyone.
We ask customers what they would like to see in their banking relationships and what they would like to see in their savings relationships. And they said, we want to see more. And in monetary value, although I talked about some non-monetary values like education and rent, we've given out over 5 billion naira, so we've hit a monumental number.
Winners on Diamond Extra 11th season include youth, senior citizens, a category for rent advance for the full year, and educational grants for 5 years, among others.
Initially, when I was called, I was a kind of skeptical. I thought it was all these scammers. But today, I think I can't quantify my joy. Access Bank is boom. They are the best.
Getting here, I was so surprised that it's real. So I thank Access Bank for giving me this opportunity to win the Diamond Extra. God will bless them and bless Access and bless the workers who is working at Access Bank in the mighty name of God.
The Diamond Extra product is here to stay, despite the merger as it enters its 12th season.
Diamond Extra is about impacting lives, doing a little more than normal banking. Why we needed to maintain a Diamond Extra was because we have a very strong followership and a lot of customers have come to believe. I mean, this is the 12th year of Diamond Extra. So we've tried to keep faith with the customers and all the things we promised the customer that nothing was going to change. I'm happy to say that we kept faith with our words.
To participate, just open a Diamond Extra account with a 5,000 naira for an entry, while existing customers just need to increase their savings and stand a huge chance of winning.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei defends his country's armed forces as he rallies support in rare Friday address. And more from our London bureau and around the world in 5. Do join us again.